Welcome. In this session, we'll focus on how mentors can coach up novice teachers or even experienced teachers by using evidence and resources. We'll look at how to be specific with data, select and leverage resources, and provide ongoing support so that mentees can successfully implement instructional improvements. So we are in Education 504 and 511, Mentor Teacher Training 1. And in this module, as I mentioned, we are discussing coaching up with evidence and resources. So let's go ahead and dive in. Coaching up means pushing mentees toward their next level of professional growth. It's not just about pointing out areas to improve. It's about connecting those improvements directly to student learning and behavior outcomes. Over time, this builds reflective teachers who can self-identify challenges and use evidence to solve them. Additionally, these links that we identify from teacher growth to student outcomes are things that are going to be identified very strategically. Essentially, we're trying to identify the areas that are going to have, metaphorically speaking, the most bang for the buck. So we may be able to identify several different areas that, could potentially be worked on. That could be overwhelming to someone to have to work on multiple things at one time. So we need to identify a key thing that can have the most meaningful difference and the most measurable difference for the instructional choices that are going to lead to stronger student behavior outcomes and academic outcomes. So it's not just picking improvement in general, it's selecting a specific goal that we can definitely link research-based coaching practices to have make a difference for that novice teacher. Effective coaching, as we mentioned before, and we will again, relies on evidence. So evidence can be in many different forms. It can be student work samples, it can be assessment data, it can be observation notes. The key is to focus on what is observable and objective, not assumptions. Sharing evidence helps the mentee see both strengths and growth areas and connects directly back to their instructional goals. Here are some examples of evidence mentors can share. So student achievement data, whether from a quiz or a benchmark, behavior logs that highlight trends, observation notes, or even short video clips, and actual student work samples. These are concrete and allow for meaningful, specific feedback. If you look at Write, there's just one tool. This is just one way that you could potentially take observation notes. This is definitely something that can be used as evidence. Make sure that when you're any tools that we're using, we want to eliminate bias. We want to eliminate judgment in the collection of that data. So we're truly just collecting what happened. What did the teacher do? What did the students do in response? Vice versa. A lot of times it's very good to count how many times something happened. And that way you've got that amount of data. So there can be many different ways to collect data and provide evidence. Once evidence points to a growth area, mentors help mentees by selecting resources that directly support that goal. And so, again, when we're talking about looking at evidence, you're going to be looking for patterns. You're going to be looking for things that would make the most difference for the student outcome improvements. So some resources that could be leveraged include research-based strategies, instructional models, or planning templates. The mentor's role is to scaffold, first modeling and providing tools, then gradually stepping back as the mentee takes more ownership. Resource examples include guides for instructional strategies, classroom management frameworks, lesson planning templates or exemplars, and collaborative supports like professional learning communities. These are tools mentors can use to help mentees move from evidence to action. Mentors provide ongoing support by checking in regularly and using feedback cycles. Plan, implement, reflect. Sometimes mentors may co-teach or model strategies to provide live examples. And even if perhaps the mentor may not go into the mentee's class and actually model this, sometimes we've got some issues maybe with planning periods or, just different things like that. It's very helpful if maybe a video can be found online that provides a model for the teacher, for the novice teacher, or even the mentee. So even if you don't do it yourself, but providing that model, that actual video sample of what you want them to do can be very, very helpful, because sometimes seeing something in action and seeing it done can really make the difference. When we can step in and do those co-teaching strategies with our mentees, that's extremely helpful. Support should be adjusted over time, increasing independence as the mentee gains confidence and skill. So for the sake of the portfolio that you're working on, you might only you're doing probably one of these cycles. You may have time to do a little bit more, some feedback cycles. You may have time to do a couple plan, implement, reflect cycles. But whether you have enough time to do that for this portfolio is not as important as your understanding that the ongoing mentoring after you receive this certification, you're going to need to step into that feedback cycle often. Plan, implement, reflect, co-teaching, modeling. It's ongoing. It's not a one and done kind of thing. So here's an example, like a little scenario that we can just briefly talk out. A mentee struggles with student transitions. The evidence is observation data showing time lost during transitions. So if we're thinking about, a pop cycle, this would be the observation portion of the pop cycle. We had the pre-conference, and then when we actually saw in the observation, during every single transition, it seemed like the students were really struggling. It didn't seem like it. It was apparent that the students were really struggling to move in a timely manner, to the point that instructional time was lost. This is something that is measurable. This is something that we can actually count. The goal then is going to become improving those routines, improving those transition routines. The mentor is going to provide a classroom management framework, possibly modeling what effective transitions look like. It would be great if the mentor could actually step into the classroom and do it with the students. But if not, providing some type of video or definitely a detailed explanation. Then co-observes and reflects with the mentee. This connects the evidence, the resources, and the support. So for example, on the right, this is a classroom management framework that on the left-hand side, it shows some basic classroom routines, and on the right, the classroom management strategy that can be used. So in this case, we would be looking at the blue, and maybe one of the exact strategies that we would want to implement would be beat the timer so that the students move quickly. I've seen this work with students of all ages. if this doesn't work or if it's not as effective as we want it to be, then that's where we would, in the evaluation part, we would go back and perhaps do something different. But so this is just an example of a coaching scenario, identifying a specific goal, helping them match a resource to it, and providing that modeling, the co-observing, and then the reflection piece. So to wrap up, evidence makes coaching conversations clear and objective. It really helps both the mentor and the mentee focus on what's going on in the classroom. It takes kind of the sting out of maybe the lack of experience or maybe some of the personal failures that sometimes a mentee may feel, that like they kind of feel like they're being scrutinized. And it really focuses on the actions and the evidence so that the conversations can become more clinical. Resources provide practical scaffolding for growth. So we don't just want to tell them what they need to work on. We want to actually give our mentees tools that they can use to promote that growth. And then, of course, ongoing support helps the changes stick. Ultimately, coaching up ensures mentees meet their goals and improves outcomes for students. As we close, take a moment to reflect. Think about what kind of evidence you can collect with your mentee and what resources you could provide to help the mentee reach that next instructional or classroom management goal. So make sure you're seeing Canvas for videos, resources, templates, and more to support your coaching mentor. And if you want to learn any more about this, here are the references that were used to put this slide deck together. There are some really fantastic, not only research, but some great strategies if you want to check that out. Have a wonderful week.